In this mini leadership course by Paul Robinson, you will learn about servant leadership and how you can become a servant leader or a level 5 leader. Learn about how you can become a humble leader and become more effective in your leadership role.
Today, servant leadership is gaining popularity as a leadership style. This leadership style has been endorsed by hundreds of books and thousands of articles in management. It is the need of the hour, and it's a leadership style that prioritizes service to others over personal ambition or power. Think about it. Why do we need leadership? Leadership is service to people, we know that. Therefore, the job of a leader is to serve other people. There is no doubt that one of the best ways to lead is to be a servant leader. The concept of servant leadership. When Robert Greenleaf introduced his servant leadership framework back in 1970, he turned the dominant command and control pyramid model on its head. He inverted the pyramid model of management structures. The top leaders are at the bottom, serving everyone else in the organization. Greenleaf's premise was quite straightforward. Leaders are most effective when they adopt a servant mindset. In practice, this means that the leader sets aside their ego, focuses on cultivating genuine relationship with their followers, and creates an atmosphere or an environment in which the followers thrive. It is founded on the notion that leaders exist to serve their followers and assist them in reaching their full potential. But when you hear the word servant leadership, many people get the message of leadership wrong. That's because servants are often looked down upon in most cultures. But if you look at the etymological origins of the word servant, you will notice that it has a very different connotation than what is commonly understood today. The term servant dates from the 13th century, and it is derived from the Anglo-French word servir, which means to serve or be useful. It's fascinating that throughout history, servants have been thought to be the lower class people with a limited set of skills and abilities. Now, these people worked for people who were wealthier, more connected, and thought to be smarter and better than them. Therefore, we got the word servant wrong, and with all these wrong connotations like incompetent or inferior. In most political or power setting, leaders were depicted as masters who rule over others with power and positions. Most people have this powerful image about their leaders, like they must be a tyrant or something. This is where we get it all wrong. Ironically, centuries after the term was coined, it is the servant mindset that is among the most valuable for leaders to possess, which is why we keep hearing about the word servant leadership these days. And if you can't be of greater service to other people, then think about it. Then there is no need for your leadership. There is no need for you being a leader. Leadership is the job to be of great service to others. So when we hear about the service orientation of being a servant leader, we usually think about how leaders can serve their employees. While this is important, it's only a small part of the big picture. The bigger picture is that leaders are supposed to serve rather than command. While communicating with people, servant leaders follow more of a ask them approach in their leadership rather than the authoritative tell them approach. The ask them approach is characterized by leaders who encourage their followers to participate in decision making and problem solving by asking questions and seeking input. This approach values collaboration and teamwork. On the other hand, tell them approach is characterized by leaders who provide directive and instructions to their followers without necessarily seeking input or feedback from their followers. Here, leaders make decisions quickly and confidently, but they expect their team members to follow their lead without questioning or challenging their authority. But in today's inclusive workplaces, people feel appreciated when they are asked. They feel they are valued for their contribution when they are asked. So this makes people to work in collaboration. A servant mindset is an appropriate tone that builds a great workplace. The true focus of a servant leader must be on others. Servant leaders prioritize their followers' needs and well-being over their own personal goals and ambitions. They actively listen, respond to their followers' concerns, and work tirelessly to help them achieve their goals. This fosters a positive work environment in which team members feel valued and supported, resulting in an increased level of engagement and motivation. Servant leadership is putting others first. Leaders are the guardians of others' interests. As a result, they must demonstrate a track record of putting others ahead of themselves. They put their people in the spotlight. They give credit to their followers. At its core, servant leadership is about putting others first and leading with a sense of humility, empathy, and a strong desire to serve. At the heart of servant leadership is a focus on the needs of others. This means that a servant leader is not driven by their own ego or personal ambitions, but rather by a deep desire to serve the needs of their team members, their customers, and their stakeholders. It's not easy to prioritize the interest of others over your own, but it's a noble thing to do and the right thing to do in leadership. And humility is the attitude that makes it possible. Leadership is exercising power with humility. It's the tone that matters more than what is said. Again, you're dealing with people, and it's easy to offend or hurt or shame people when someone is operating from a powerful position. But servant leaders treat their people with respect. They don't cover up their mistakes to make themselves look good. Servant leaders are humble and willing to admit when they are wrong. They're open to feedbacks and are consistently looking for ways to improve their leadership style and themselves. They love to be evaluated by their followers, and they take suggestions to improve their effectiveness. This fosters a culture of trust and respect among team members, allowing them to provide honest and constructive feedback. That's why, by default, a servant leader always listens to their people. The strong dynamic of servant leadership is others' interest over your own. To practice servant leadership, a leader must become a contributor, and the people he or she serves must become the benefactor. If the leader becomes the benefactor of the service he or she is doing, then it's merely serving oneself, and it is not called servant leadership. Leadership is moving people for others' benefits. Moving people to a leader's benefit is not called leadership. It's called manipulation. Great leaders move people to others' advantage. Weak leaders move people to their personal advantage. Remember, servant leadership is about putting others' interests first. Humble leadership. Great leadership is distinguished by humility and a service mindset. In any social setting, humility devalues your ego, but humility must come from within. You can't fake humility with a false modesty. Two-faced leaders get caught eventually. Even if you're a leader with a title working in a hierarchical organization, you can minimize the harms of bureaucratic positional leadership if you practice servant leadership. And the first step towards servant leadership is to cultivate the virtue of humility, or what's popularly known as the down-to-earth personality type. When people in powerful positions act with humility, it can have a powerful psychological impact on their followers. You can transform an organization with humility. Humble leaders are more trusted and more approachable than those who act with arrogance or entitlement. When leaders show humility, they demonstrate that they're open for feedback and willing to admit when they are wrong, which can help them build trust with their followers. Humble leaders admit their mistakes. Arrogant leaders blame others for their mistakes. They think admitting mistakes is a sign of weakness. On the contrast, admitting mistakes is a sign of courage and strength. After all, making mistakes is human, and accepting one's own mistakes requires great courage. No leader ever makes the right decision 100% of the time. They make the best decisions based on the information available. However, as the information becomes available or circumstances change, their prior decisions may appear to be incorrect. When mistakes occur, regardless of the cause, a leader's best course of action is to admit the error and move on to solve the problem. In most cases, people will understand that mistakes happen, and if they are not fatal, then generally they can be reversed by a subsequent decision based on the new evidence available. Rather than continue to pursue a failed course of action based on a bad decision, leaders who admit mistakes and move on will retain the respect of their trust of their followers. And it takes great humility to accept our mistakes. Humble leaders are willing to expose their vulnerability and to treat themselves as human. This will inspire their followers to do the same, resulting in high trust and transparency within the team. Humble servant leaders communicate better with people. Humble leaders are often more effective communicators than those who act with arrogance or entitlement. By listening actively to their team members and seeking to understand their perspectives, humble leaders can create an environment in which communication is open and effective. Followers show no inhibitions to open up and speak their mind. They know that they will never be judged. As a result, truth will be reported. Innovation is encouraged. Team members who feel safe to express their ideas and opinions are more likely to think creatively and come up with innovative solutions to problems. Moreover, when leaders act with humility, they create a sense of psychological safety that can enhance motivation and engagement among their followers. When team members feel safe to express their opinion and ideas, they are more likely to feel motivated to contribute to the team's goals. They will come out with better ideas. Humble leaders get more loyal followers because they value and respect their team members, and leaders can plan and execute ambitious projects with their team. Followers often admire a humble, down-to-earth person who is their leader. People who are service-oriented are much more liked by other kinds of leadership. Nobody likes working with arrogant leaders who only work for their own benefit. People want to work for a leader who is humble. Followers appreciate leaders who serve them rather than rule over them. Overall, servant leaders have a compelling modesty. They shun public adulations. They are never boastful. They prioritize the needs of others, deriving his or her authority from the heartfelt impulse to help. Servant leaders don't view themselves as being at the top of the hierarchy, where they need to use their power to control things. They place themselves at the bottom of the hierarchy, adopting the role of a servant for the benefit of the organization and the stakeholders they serve. Servant leaders lift others up. So the inverted pyramid model is a great example to servant leadership. When you stay at the bottom, you can lift others up. Great leaders are humble and they lift others up. They give the due credit to their team members while winning, and they take the blame for losing. It's putting followers first. It's giving the spotlight to their followers and taking pride in that moment that you have served them so well so they can shine. As organizations increasingly recognize the importance of putting people first, servant leadership has become one of the most increasing popular leadership style. This model can work in many organizational settings. As many senior leaders practice this style, it will make other managers to practice this style also. It's leading by example. And the best place to start this kind of a leadership style is right at the top. What does this mean to your leadership development? Humility and service mindset is a prerequisite for servant leadership. You need to know the fact that you can only rise by lifting others. So if you want to adapt this servant mindset into your leadership effectiveness, then you need to make some small changes in the way you think and behave. As part of the thought process, you must think of others' interests first. You need to think about serving other people. How can you be more useful to others? What value can you add to the betterment of your team? Remember, you will become more valuable leader only if you are adding or giving so much of value to your team and to other stakeholders. As far as the behavioral changes are concerned, you need to practice active listening skills. Listen without judgment and have an open mind for suggestions and improvements. Seek feedback. Humble leaders are open to feedback from others and are willing to admit when they are wrong. Humility involves a willingness to admit when you don't know something, and humble people are always committed to lifelong learning. So be transparent in your communication. Empathize with others. Now, developing empathy is an important aspect of cultivating a service mindset. This means putting yourself in others' shoes and trying to understand their perspectives and experiences. By developing empathy, you can become more attuned to the needs and interests of others. Ultimately, lead by example. As a leader, you can set the tone for your team by leading by example. By demonstrating humility and a service mindset in your own behavior, you can encourage others to do the same. Become a servant leader. Become a humble leader. Practice the virtue of humility. And that is true greatness. When you're a servant leader, people want to follow you for who you are and not for the title you hold. This is more like the personhood of leadership. When you become a servant leader, your character is more visible to people and they see you beyond your qualifications and capabilities. They see you as an inspiration, a person of greatness. And that's only possible because you are a humble person and you're ready to serve others first.